If your finished drawings feel flat and don't quite have that pop and impact, the issue might not be what you're drawing, but what you're not drawing. Backgrounds play a huge role in creating depth. In this video, I'll show you how I build a supportive background from the very first step as I draw this deer. I actually started this piece during a live demo, so let me quickly catch you up on what I've already done. I am working on a 9 by 12 inch piece of Stonehenge craft paper. Since it's a tone surface, it already gives me a mid value to work from, which is so helpful when you're trying to create depth because I don't have to build everything up from the white paper. I start with a mid value and I can immediately begin working in both the light and dark direction. This kind of tone paper works best with pencils that are a little more opaque. So for this piece, I'm using the Derwent Drawing 72 set. These pencils are naturally a bit waxier and the new colors are beautifully curated with a lot of earthy nature-inspired tones. Like most of my drawings, I started with a very light sketch using a red coal erase pencil. The sketch includes the general proportions of the deer and some of the larger background shapes. Even when I'm making my first marks on the paper, I'm thinking about how the background is going to interact with my subject. And in this piece, I decided to move one of the pine trees slightly to the right so it wasn't coming straight out of the deer's head. After the sketch was complete, I wanted to establish the range of values in the deer first. I used a dark violet to map in the darkest areas of the fur, and this was mostly under the chin and along the belly near the legs. Then I blocked in some of the lightest areas on the face with a soft cream color. This helps me quickly establish the value range in the fur so I can judge all of the middle values more accurately as I build the drawing up. I'm definitely going to be working on fur texture quite a bit throughout this drawing, but I try not to get too focused on that early on. If I stay on the deer too long, it's easy to ignore everything else. So once I had just enough information to establish the light and dark value range, I pulled myself away from the deer and started working on the darker shapes in the background. I'm not trying to draw every dark shape in the background yet. Instead, I'm focusing on the darker shapes closest to the deer, especially along the back and around the neck. These quick shapes immediately help place the deer within its environment. And because these greens are darker in value than the fur in those areas, they create contrast, and that contrast naturally pulls your eye towards the subject, helping the deer really stand out. Drawings can feel flat when everything is rendered at the same level of detail. If the fur on the legs and the antlers and the trees all receive the same level of attention, the viewer's eye doesn't know where to go. One of the best ways to avoid this is by creating a clear focal point. A focal point is the area of a drawing that you want the viewer to notice first. It's the visual center of interest, the place where the eye naturally lands before exploring the rest of the piece. In this drawing, I wanted the face and the antlers of the deer to be the focal point, so I'm making sure that the strongest contrast happens in this area. There are several different types of contrast, and one that I'm utilizing in this area is value contrast. Here, I'm keeping the edges of the antlers very light and bright in value against the darker shades in the trees behind them. I'm also creating contrast with color temperature. In the deer, I'm using warmer tones throughout, and I'm even pulling these into the antlers where I don't necessarily see them in the photo reference. These warmer browns and creams help create contrast with a cooler background. One other type of contrast I'm using in this area is the level of detail. In the deer and the antlers, I'm keeping the edges crisp and the textures more defined. But as I transition to the background, especially between the antlers, I'm intentionally letting things stay soft and slightly out of focus. So instead of drawing individual pine needles and branches, I'm blocking in larger organic shapes of color. These shapes are inspired by what I see in the background of the photo, but they're intentionally simplified and less detailed so that they don't compete with the focal point. Sometimes a drawing will have one very crisp focal point and everything else falls completely out of focus. But that isn't what I do most of the time and isn't what I'm doing in this piece. I do have the main focal point as the deer's head, with a softer background behind it. But focus really exists on a spectrum. There are areas that fall somewhere in between those two extremes throughout the piece. For example, down here in the legs, I am using slightly less detail than I did in the face. But in the plants and shrubs around the legs, I'm using a bit more detail than I did in the distant background. The contrast and level of detail here are still lower than they are in the focal point, which means that the viewer's eyes won't jump here first. Instead, it supports the main subject. At the same time, those slightly sharper plants in the foreground help it feel closer in space than the softer background behind the deer's head. So these choices aren't just helping me establish the focal point, they're also helping me create a stronger sense of depth in this piece. Another way that I'm controlling focus and depth in this drawing is through glazing. There are quite a few different colors built up in the fur on the deer's back and legs, but since these areas aren't the focal point, I don't want all of those individual colors competing for attention. So I'm glazing over them with a warm orangey brown to help unify the body of the deer. A glaze is simply a thin, transparent layer of color placed over the top of existing layers. It can help unify an area, soften transitions, and it can even slightly shift the color temperature. In this case, I am choosing a warm glaze because warm colors tend to come forward in space. Later in this video, you'll see me use cooler glazes in the background to push some of the background elements further away. Temperature shifts are a great way to control depth, but specific colors in the background also play a big role. So here, I am bringing in a deep, rich red-brown to push some of these shadows further back. When you mix complementary colors together, like red and green, they begin to neutralize each other, and that less intense version of the color is going to recede back. It is also going to become darker because as you build up more layers of color, there is less light that can pass through those layers and reflect back to the viewer. As I mentioned earlier, this piece started out as a live demo, and my students in that class had the most questions about what kind of marks they should be using in the background. And that didn't surprise me at all. Many colored pencil artists develop very controlled marks that allow them to build smooth gradients and really even surfaces. These are wonderful skills to have, but if that is the only type of mark you know how to make, you can start to feel really limited, especially when you're working on backgrounds like this. Throughout this piece, I am using a variety of different marks and strokes to suggest textures that feel believable, but I'm not trying to copy the photo reference pixel for pixel. Instead, I'm simplifying what I see and choosing specific marks that suggest a texture rather than describing everything. Closer up, near the deer's feet, I am using more expressive strokes that hint at the shapes and textures of the leaves and plants. But as we move further back into the trees, my marks become faster and a little more scribbly. You'll notice in this area that I'm using quick vertical strokes to describe the basic shapes in the trees in the distance. Rather than constantly changing up my mark, I am mostly just switching out pencils to adjust for value and color differences. And I'm keeping the overall character of the mark fairly consistent. I have found that using a consistent type of mark in the background helps everything hold together visually. The pine needles in the photo are actually pointing in lots of different directions, but if I zoom in and I try to draw every one of those pine needles exactly as it appears, this drawing would have taken at least 10 times longer and it wouldn't have been better for it. Having attention on every one of the pine needles and branches in the background would have felt overstimulating and chaotic. And our job as artists isn't to copy every detail we see. It's to create an experience for the viewer. So here, I'm intentionally softening and quieting the background so we can really enjoy this moment with the deer. I'm not going to pretend that backgrounds like this are always easy for me. Even after tens of thousands of hours working with colored pencils, I still sometimes look at a photo reference like this and feel a little overwhelmed. There are moments when I'm not completely sure how I'm going to simplify what I'm seeing, but that really is just part of the artistic process. When we start to view those difficult moments as interesting problems to solve, it completely changes the experience. One thing that has helped me tremendously with that mindset is working regularly in a sketchbook. A sketchbook is naturally a place to explore and experiment without everything needing to be perfect. In fact, I actually drew this deer in my sketchbook several months ago after my summer trip through Glacier and Yellowstone National Park. If simplifying images and scenes like this one is something that you'd like to get better at, I actually have a free exercise that walks you through how to break a photo reference down into simple shadow shapes. This will help your drawings feel more dimensional, and you can download that free guide using the link in the video description. Let's come back to the drawing and talk about a couple of solutions that I use when I get stuck with a complicated background like this. One of the things that I often do is begin moving around the drawing a little bit more. I try to keep my colors and my marks consistent so that the piece holds together, but shifting to another area can give your brain a bit of a reset. When you come back to that tricky section, you'll often see it differently, or you may have even discovered a solution while you were working somewhere else. I also am constantly reminding myself that what I'm making is a drawing. It does not have to match the photo exactly. No one is ever going to see the photo. I can move trees or bushes, I can repeat shapes in different sizes, and I can even borrow elements from other references or leave areas unfinished. Sometimes the imperfect, unfinished areas are actually the most interesting parts of a piece because they remind us that this is something made by a human hand. And especially now when we're surrounded by more and more computer-generated imagery, those human marks and decisions become so much more powerful and meaningful. As I finish up this piece, it's a great time to step back and take a look at the main things that helped me create depth in this drawing. And as I do that, I'm going to show you a few of the finishing touches that really helped this piece feel finished. One of the biggest principles we discussed throughout this video was temperature relationships. And I told you that the cooler colors tend to recede while the warmer colors are going to come forward. And that's why I've used most of the warmer colors in the deer and the cooler colors in the background. And this is another example of how I am doing that. In the trunk of this tree, I'm leaning into cooler grays and softer blues so that this trunk feels further away. I'm also keeping the value difference between the light and dark side of the trunk a little bit closer together than what I see in the photo. This is so the trunk doesn't compete with the deer's head, which is my focal point. I always want the focal point of my piece to have the strongest contrast, but with every rule in art, there's always a reason to break it. Here, I am bringing some warmer colors into the background, and I've also brought some cooler tones into the deer. Repeating colors throughout the piece helps everything feel cohesive, and when you're drawing an animal in its environment, that sense of connection between the subject and the background becomes really important. If your background ever starts feeling like it's competing with the subject, don't be afraid to soften or scrub out some of the detail. That's exactly what I'm doing here with the gray and green pencils. This scrubbing technique is similar to glazing, but I'm using a bit more pressure so that the pencil doesn't just sit on top of the layers, and instead it begins to blend and soften what's already underneath. And over here on the left, after I scrubbed this green onto the craft paper, I actually decided to leave that texture the way it was. That rougher surface helps balance some of the more detailed areas in this drawing and gently guides the viewer's eye back towards the parts of the piece where I spent the most time. My last few moves on almost any drawing usually involves adjusting the values for a little more impact, and that's especially true for this piece. A drawing isn't finished just because colored pencil covers the surface. It's finished when you step back and everything reads the way you want it to. In this piece, I needed a little bit more depth in the foreground plants and in the midground areas just behind the deer, so I slowly added a few darker shapes to strengthen that contrast. I really can't stress enough how important it is to understand value. So if you haven't downloaded that Shadow Shapes freebie, remember that's down in the video description. And if you'd like to learn more about expressive mark making and creative exploration, you can check out this video where I take you on a sketchbook tour of a very special sketchbook where I documented my summer and played around with a bunch of new techniques. I'll see you over there.